but it essentially makes a trail camera pointless.
Pretty useless.
Yeah.
But then the other side of it though too is I think banning trail cameras, more so than anything, it pinches the average Joe everyday or weekend warrior, average Joe hunter. Like now your competitive advantage when you like
you can't be outglassed.
Even me, right? And I have more time than the average Joe, but just use me for an example. I don't have time to just go, and it's only it's not that far away from here where I'm hunting. Like it's not far at all, but I still don't have the time with business and family and everything else I have going on through the summer to
it's not your full-time job.
It's not my job. But guess what? It is other people's job.
Sure.
So my way to compete with them was through a trail camera, because I could hang trail cameras, run it on the times that I could, have an idea, let's say 25% of the puzzle put together just based on a picture. Whereas an outfitter might have 75% because they have the picture and they spent the time with their people to actually go find transition, bedding, all the other stuff. Now the only other 25% they got to do is actually kill it. I still have what's left, but at least I have a starting point to compete with them. So without trail cameras, like it being in my situation, let alone somebody who can't even get up there as much as I could, like you really you're wiped out now on being able to compete.
Yeah. Do you think
does that you know what I mean?
agree.
That's the thing I don't like about banning of the trail cams is not everybody can afford the $15,000 outfitter or wants to hunt with an outfitter for that. Like there's a lot of those people, and now we can't even compete.
I also hate the what's next to get banned type of thing. Like what more regulations do you need where you can't use a rangefinder during this time of year, or you can't do that? Like what else is it? Is going to come from it?
Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah, I actually, this is like one thing. I think August 1st is okay. Like, sure, you're going to open your archery hunts in some states like Nevada. You're going to open the 10th. Like, I think that's fine. I don't know. I have the same type of feeling. Like I think the kind of the dramatics of it. So this like widespread panic that like, hey, there's a lot of people out on the landscape and they're running 500 trail cameras and they're all on water holes and they're checking them day and night all day. You know, these elk and deer can't even get a drink. I think it's probably over dramatized in my opinion. I don't know for a fact, but to me it seems like overly dramatic, right? I think there's probably some water holes in some states like Nevada. Obviously it's super dry, right? So most of your cameras you're gonna throw those on a water hole. Right. And there probably are some water holes that get quite a number of cameras, but I don't know that it's like to the level that I think that you're like constantly harassing wildlife.
I would agree.
I might be wrong. Maybe people prove me wrong.
You say the same thing then, that shed hunters are harassing animals going on the landscape every single day too?
I feel kind of the same way about shed hunters to some extent.
Because people say they do and people say they don't. I mean,
there's just like also
everyone else is hiking around the same time.
There's this widespread panic that there's like 1 billion shed hunters on the landscape. Like I know the most hardcore shed hunters I know, like they're out there, and I know probably 20 of them, 30 of them. I know a bunch of weekend warriors that might get a day or two here and there, and most of those guys aren't finding anything. I just think it's like with social media and the internet in general now, it just like gets pushed at you so quickly and with so much force by a few that it becomes like the accepted norm. Like, there are a shit ton of cameras everywhere. Yeah. You know, there are 1 billion shed hunters all across the entire landscape. I might be wrong, but that's the gut feeling that I got.
Here's the thing with variable, right? Like variables are hard to solve for.
Sure.
And you inevitably have to like decide, is the juice worth the squeeze on either side of what this variable is? Is it happening where cameras are getting checked and people are driving in and animals are getting pushed off of water? I'm sure that has happened. Has it happened with shed hunters where they push an animal with a vehicle, get them to jump a fence and hopefully drop their horns?
Just bump them in general.
I'm sure it happens, right? But does it happen enough to, on the camera conversation, does it happen enough to take away the competitive advantage for the average Joe weekend warrior who can't afford the outfitter? Is it happening enough to take that away from him and his kids and the experience? And he finally does draw a once in a lifetime tag and wants to run cameras and get the full experience, and he's legally not allowed to. Yeah. Like, is it happening enough to take that away from somebody? And the slippery slope variable too of like, okay, what's next? That's what's hard about the whole thing is I can see, you see both sides of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But what's the answer on like, is it happening enough to take this away from
and
people?
Even if they did ban them completely during those times and like, oh, you're displacing wildlife by checking your cameras on water sources, you could say the same thing if they banned them. It could have the same amount of traffic to water sources because you would still want to go walk to that water source.
Yeah,
look for fresh
check
tracks.
prints.
See
check
if there's a big buck print in there.
Yeah,
and
check
then
the way they're entering and exiting.
Yeah, maybe I can figure out stuff. So you're still going to have that pressure no matter what of people wanting to go walk and check out water sources, especially for archery, to put, you know, blinds nearby or whatever, or figure out where they can glass from to look at some stuff. So like, you're still going to have that. And you might have that to the same level as you would if it wasn't trail cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah. There's part of me like with Arizona banning trail cameras, and you hear a lot of talk like, oh, it's going to put the hunt back in the strip, right? So now you've got no cameras. So there's not every single buck is known about and named, you know, it put the hunt back in it. I get it. I understand, you know, kind of the sentiment of it. I mean, I think those bigger bucks are still getting found. People are out there with glass. Yeah, I mean, there's guides and outfitters.
If you're a premier outfitter,
yeah, you know where it's at,
and you get the legislation of cameras are banned. If I'm a premier outfitter, I am in my house celebrating. Like hell yes, dude.
Yeah,
let's go.
Because I'm out there.
Like this is my job. I'm out there. I'll know every buck, and average Joe is going to know maybe one of my 5.
Yeah,
and get lucky to find them.
I don't have a problem with trail cameras though. Like, I mean, the way Utah runs it, you know, you've got till August 1st. I'm okay with that. I didn't have a problem with it when it was year round. Like they let you run trail cameras. I didn't really care about that.
That actually brings up another point that I forgot that I wanted to make. That's how my brain works these days, is I can forget things as quick as I is think about the amount of information we have learned on wildlife through trail cameras. And that, I think that's the side of this thing that nobody ever really talks about. But like the amount of information we have gathered and learned on each individual species of animal with all these public trail cameras out there that's not costing the state any money, the DWRs any money, like all that stuff. And think about like, oh, this camera caught a jaguar in Arizona, a wolverine in California. This is the Utah. They did I can't remember when, but it's back when my uncle was running a ton of trail cams down there on the bench and all that. They did a count on how many does had dual fawns, had twin fawns. And it was like, for whatever reason, there was more there than whatever. And they studied, I guess, some of the feed purpose and everything. And it turns out there was more protein, and that's why they think they found this feed
twins.
thing. Yeah. This is like 15, 20 years ago or something like that. So you think about those things we've learned because of public trail cameras.
I don't think, I mean, I probably have 4 or 5 trail cameras that I ran over the years, and I'm probably checking those like once a month, maybe if I'm lucky, like every 3 weeks, if that.
That is me in the boat that I'm in. If I've run cameras, which I will this year. Yeah. Yeah. It's like once every 3 weeks, best case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
best case.
Yeah, and I'm really just looking for, you know, one photo of one buck that I'm like, yeah, that's a buck I would like to hunt. And then,
would you say that's 25% of the puzzle? Like at most 25% of that puzzle?
Of actually killing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if that.
That's how I feel. It's like it's really not that much of an
advantage.
advantage.
The buck is there, which is great.
I know that he was there.
I would love to kill of every buck that I've ever got a trail camera.
Yeah.
I think I've killed like 3 or 4 that I've got photos of that I hunted my absolute ass off for.
Yeah.
But actually killing them,
it's such a small amount of information that you gather.
It really is just knowing they exist.
They're somewhere within a 20-mile radius of this.
And then it depends on timing, right? I mean, like Brady was saying, if his permit's an October permit, it's much less valuable if he gets a photo in August or July come October.
And then even though it's not going to be really that valuable, it's still going to be cool. But I kind of want the photos too. I kind of want
the
that
experience of it.
I want to be able to look at it, watch some bucks grow. Like that experience to me is pretty unique, and I don't feel like you should take that.
That was part of my experience talk. Is like, you drew this tag, you'll probably never draw it again. I'll never draw this tag that I have again either.
Right.
I want to make it a month-long tag.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And legally, I possibly would not have the ability to do that. It stings. It sucks.
So So to cut this short, I'll definitely be writing my comment and submitting it that I do not believe they should be banned July 1st to December 31st for all types of trail cameras.
Are you okay with current then, August?
I'm okay with current.
Okay.
I still wish maybe people could probably run them a little bit longer, but it's okay.
I think you should be able to run them longer.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
I think winter range, coming off the rut, like all that stuff, maybe just to get people off the landscape. If that really is your argument, is we're kicking them off of waters, we're putting pressure on them. Okay, well, then let's do that when they need the pressure off them.
Yeah.
May to August 1st, you'd be okay with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any issues with it. I generally don't have that many issues with it.
Yeah,
so.
me either.